Hello, friend, and welcome to the Sleepy Meteorologist. Tonight, we're stepping softly into the quiet world of fog, where the sky comes down to earth and the clouds drift among us like whispered thoughts. Fog is the atmosphere's way of moving closer, a gentle blur between air and land, where outlines soften and everything feels hushed. Maybe your day has been long, or your thoughts are gently unraveling. This is your moment to rest, to breathe, and let go. There's no pressure here, no need to follow every word. Just let the rhythm of the story guide you, like a slow walk through misty hills. How's the sky looking where you are tonight? A little grey, a little golden. If you enjoy these peaceful meteorology journeys, you're always welcome to like or subscribe, but only if it feels truly restful to do so. For now, you can snuggle in, let your shoulders drop, let your breath slow, and allow the softness of the sky to settle over you like a quiet blanket. Let's begin. Fog is simply a cloud that comes down to visit, a sky that leans low, tucking itself gently around the world. Unlike the bold formations that tower above us, fog doesn't rise. It settles. It embraces. It whispers instead of shouts. And in that softness, something beautiful happens. The boundary between sky and earth begins to blur. Scientifically speaking, fog forms when moist air cools to the point where it can no longer hold all of its water vapor. This point is known as the dew point, where condensation begins, and where invisible vapor becomes visible, droplets suspended in air. When this happens close to the ground, those droplets don't float above us as lofty clouds. Instead, they surround us. They rest on fields, drift through trees, and fill valleys like gentle breath. There is no rush in fog. It arrives without spectacle, no booming thunder or flashing light, just a slow, spreading hush. On some mornings, fog clings to the landscape, as if reluctant to let go. On others, it drifts across roads and hills in rolling waves, ever shifting but never hurrying. It has no edges, no sharp beginning or end. It simply fades into and out of the world around it. Fog tends to form most often during calm, windless nights, especially when the air is humid and temperatures drop gradually. As the surface of the Earth cools after sunset, the air just above it cools too. And if there's enough moisture, that air begins to condense into a cloud, but one that forms sideways instead of upward. Imagine a field at dawn, still and silver. The blades of grass hold tiny droplets. The trees look like sketches drawn in soft pencil, and the air feels just a little heavier, like it's made of water and hush. That's fog, a sky within reach. Fog is made up of millions of micro droplets, each so small that they hang in the air instead of falling. They scatter light, which is why fog looks so bright, even when the sky above is grey. Streetlights become halos, headlights bloom into soft globes. The world becomes dreamlike, blurred around the edges, inviting you to slow down. Meteorologists define fog based on visibility, specifically when it drops below 1 kilometer. But to those walking through it, fog isn't about distance. It's about atmosphere, mood, feeling, a veil across the familiar, transforming it into something new. There's a comfort in fog. It quiets the world, muffles sound, turns distant cars into whispers, makes every step feel closer to a secret. Even animals respond to fog's hush. Birds delay their morning calls, deer tread more carefully, and humans too tend to move more slowly, as if the fog has reminded us to pause. Sometimes the fog lifts quickly, burning off with the morning sun. Other times, it lingers until midday, or returns again at dusk. But however long it stays, it leaves behind a feeling of softness, a sense that the sky visited us, not from above, but from beside. So the next time you see fog forming, take a breath. Let it wrap around your shoulders. Know that it is only the sky coming close, just for a little while. Not all fog is the same. Though it may appear uniform from a distance, a gentle grey blanket across a hillside, or a quiet veil drifting through the trees. Fog comes in many forms, each with its own story, its own rhythm, its own quiet reason for forming. Tonight, let's wander through the soft science of fog's many varieties, not to memorize, but to understand, gently, sleepily. The most common type is radiation fog. It forms on clear, calm nights when the ground cools quickly after sunset. That cooling surface then chills the air just above it. And if the air holds enough moisture, it condenses right there near the ground. This kind of fog often forms in valleys and low-lying areas, where cooler air tends to collect. It's the kind of fog you might find just after dawn, blanketing fields in softness, slowly lifting as sunlight warms the earth once again. Then there's advection fog, formed when warm, moist air flows over a cooler surface, like a cold ocean current or snow-covered land. The air cools from below, condenses, and forms a low cloud layer that drifts with the breeze. This type of fog is common near coastlines and over open water. It can stretch for miles and move like a soft tide. Upslope fog occurs when moist air is gently pushed up the side of a hill or mountain. As the air rises, it cools, and fog forms along the slope. It's like the clouds are climbing the landscape, moving slowly and softly upward, turning mountaintops into islands floating in a sea of mist. Evaporation fog, also known as steam fog, forms when cold air moves over warm water. The warmer water evaporates into the cooler air above it, and that sudden infusion of moisture condenses quickly into tiny droplets. You might see this as wisps of fog rising from lakes on chilly mornings, like the water is exhaling into the sky. Freezing fog is more delicate. It forms like other fogs, but in sub-freezing temperatures. The droplets remain liquid, but freeze instantly upon contact with surfaces, creating delicate frost called rime ice on tree branches, fences, and anything exposed. It turns the landscape into a sculpture garden of crystal. Each type of fog has its conditions, its quiet formula, but they all share something in common: gentleness. Fog doesn't fall like rain or roar like wind. It arrives softly, surrounds patiently, and leaves without a sound. To the casual eye, fog is just fog, but knowing the reasons behind each formation helps us see the beauty more clearly. A fog drifting inland may be advection, a veil rolling down a slope, upslope, a shimmer above the lake at sunrise, evaporation. Even knowing all this, we don't need to name it every time. We can just be present with it. Let it roll in, let it surround, let the quiet happen. Fog isn't something to look at from afar. It's something to be within. And when we learn the gentle science behind it, we're not just observing clouds at ground level, we're walking with them. There is something tender about the hours just before dawn, when the world holds its breath and the sky hasn't quite decided what colour it wants to be. In these early hours, before the first bird sings, before the light begins to stretch itself over the horizon, there's often a mist that rises quietly from the ground. A silver veil, a gentle hush laid across the fields. This is morning fog at its softest, delicate, drifting and low. Not thick like a dense coastal fog, nor sweeping like sea mist. This is mist that lingers just above the grass, like the sky has whispered something to the earth, and the earth is quietly exhaling in return. It happens because the ground, having released much of its warmth during the night, becomes cool, sometimes cooler than the air above it. And when the air near the surface holds enough moisture, the drop in temperature allows condensation to begin. What forms is a thin layer of fog, just a few feet tall in some places, spreading over pastures and meadows like soft breath on glass. You might see it from a distance, a quiet band of silver hovering just above a field, moving gently, if at all. Sometimes it clings to the ground like low smoke. Other times it rises slightly, just enough to blur the bottoms of fence posts or turn trees into watercolor silhouettes. This kind of fog is most common in the countryside, where open fields allow the air to cool more rapidly overnight. Cities and towns, with their paved streets and artificial warmth, often miss this gentle moment. But out in nature, it's a regular visitor, one that keeps to itself and leaves without a trace. Meteorologists often refer to this as radiation fog because it forms from the cooling of the Earth's surface through radiational cooling overnight. On clear, still nights, heat escapes freely into the sky. The ground cools quickly, and with it, the moist air near the surface begins to condense. The stillness of the atmosphere is important here. Wind would mix the air, disrupt the delicate temperature layers, and keep the fog from forming. But when the night is calm, the mist arrives like a whisper. It's not uncommon to see this fog just before sunrise, only for it to lift and vanish as the sun rises. Even a few degrees of warming can be enough to reabsorb the tiny droplets back into the invisible vapor they came from. And just like that, the field clears. The day begins. But during its brief visit, morning mist transforms the landscape. It gives it softness, quiet, intimacy. It makes familiar places feel like memories, wrapped in silence. Photographers chase it. Walkers pause to watch it. And those who wake early enough might find themselves standing in it, not to analyze or explain it, but just to be still within it. Because this isn't a storm to study or a cloud to name. It's a pause, a softness between night and day, the sky's gentle way of greeting the earth good morning. And sometimes it's enough to stand in that hush and listen to nothing, to breathe in the damp, earthy air, and to know that the world is waking very slowly, wrapped in silver. Some fogs travel, others stay. In valleys, fog has a different rhythm. It doesn't roll or rise. It rests. It waits. It settles in like a breath that never quite exhales. If you've ever looked down from a mountaintop or a high ridge at sunrise, you might have seen it. Valleys filled to the brim with fog, like a bowl of clouds tucked between hills. Trees poke through like islands. Roads disappear beneath the white. The entire valley becomes a sea of stillness. This is valley fog, and it's a quiet marvel of both meteorology and topography. It begins like many other types of fog, with moisture and cooling. But here, the shape of the land plays a starring role. As night falls and the air cools, cooler air begins to sink. Cold air is heavier than warm air, so it flows downward like invisible water, pooling in low-lying areas. In valleys, this pooling becomes more pronounced, especially on clear, calm nights. The cool air settles into the bottom of the valley, where it continues to lose heat. If the air near the surface holds enough moisture, this cooling brings it to the dew point, and fog begins to form. Trapped by the surrounding hills or mountains, the fog doesn't move far. it simply stays. This effect is often enhanced by what's called a temperature inversion. Normally, air temperature decreases with height, but during calm, clear nights, the reverse can happen. The coldest air is at the bottom, with warmer layers above. This creates a stable layer of atmosphere, one that resists vertical motion. In other words, the fog is held in place by a quiet ceiling. It can't rise, it can't escape. So, it stays nestled in the valley like a sleeping breath. And there it remains, until something shifts. Maybe the sun begins to warm the valley floor, stirring the air. Maybe a gentle breeze arrives, lifting the edges. Or maybe it lingers all morning, reluctant to leave. To those within it, valley fog can feel like a different world. Sound is muffled, visibility is reduced, but above, the sky may be clear, an inversion of perspective. From above, it's breathtaking. A sea of white stretching between hills, glowing in the morning light. But from within, it's cozy, quiet, almost sacred. Meteorologists can track valley fog with satellite imagery, but its presence is felt more deeply than measured. It affects not just visibility, but mood, pace. It slows the morning, encourages stillness, and that stillness is what makes valley fog so unique. It is held, contained, cradled by the land, as if the earth itself were gently cupping the sky. In this soft balance of temperature and terrain, we find one of the most peaceful expressions of weather. Not a storm, not a front, just mist, sleeping in a valley. So, if you ever stand on a ridge and look down at a fog-filled basin, know that what you're seeing is more than moisture. It's a conversation between the land and the air, a lullaby sung by the hills, and within that lullaby, a promise of calm. There are mornings when the ocean disappears, not because it's gone, but because it's been gently hidden by fog. To mariners, coastal fog is a familiar companion. It rises like a breath from the sea, drifting across the waves, turning sails into shadows and shorelines into dreams. This is advection fog, a type born not from cooling land, but from the subtle meeting of warm air and cooler water. Let's gently float into its story. It begins when moist, warm air moves horizontally, often from over land or warmer ocean currents, and flows across a colder surface. That surface, in this case, is the sea. If the sea's temperature is cool enough, it begins to lower the temperature of the air above it. As that moist air cools to its dew point, the water vapor within it begins to condense into tiny droplets. These droplets don't fall as rain. They remain suspended, drifting in place, clinging to the air. And so, a fog is born, not rising from below, but forming from within the very breeze. This horizontal movement is what gives advection fog its name. Advection refers to the transport of air across a surface. Unlike radiation fog, which forms mostly in still air, advection fog loves a light wind, enough to move, but not so much to scatter. At sea, it can be disorienting. The sky and water become one. Waves vanish beneath a pearly sheen. Even the horizon disappears. But it is not frightening here. Not in this version of the story, because we're not aboard a ship, racing through it. We're simply drifting, slowly, observing from above. Coastal areas often experience this kind of fog, especially where cold ocean currents hug the shore, like along the coasts of California or parts of northern Europe. The contrast between warm inland air and cool ocean water creates ideal conditions for this marine mist to form. Sometimes this fog remains out at sea, veiling the ocean in silence. Other times it moves inland, softly rolling over cliffs, sliding into harbours and blanketing coastal towns with a breath of grey. To stand on a cliff and watch advection fog roll in from the sea is to witness weather in motion at its gentlest. The cloud doesn't fall, it glides. It curls over hills like slow smoke. It wraps lighthouses and pier posts in quiet. And unlike valley fog, which pools in low places, or morning mist that vanishes with the sun, advection fog can linger well into the day. As long as the air keeps moving over that cooler surface, the fog stays. Mariners once called it sea smoke or white breath, a signal to slow down, to navigate by sound rather than sight. Even now, foghorns still echo across bays during such moments. Deep, low sounds that reach further than vision can. But for us, we are simply observers, floating beside it, watching as land and sea become watercolour. There's no sharp line between water and sky, no hard edge, just softness. And as the fog moves inland, brushing across sand dunes or rocky coasts, it brings the ocean's stillness with it. A hush, a calm, a reminder that even the vastest waters can disappear, if only for a little while. At the heart of every fog is something simple, something quiet, something utterly invisible until it's not. That something is condensation. Condensation is the soft beginning of every droplet. It's the moment water vapor, once invisible, once part of the air itself, decides to change form, to become seen, to gather, and it does so in the gentlest way, not with force or speed, but with patience. Let's drift into that invisible space together. Water vapor is always present in the air around us. It moves unseen, held gently, between temperature and pressure. But when the air cools, slowly, naturally, it loses its ability to hold all that vapor. And so, the vapor begins to find surfaces. These surfaces might be as small as a speck of dust, a tiny particle of salt, even a pollen grain. These are known as condensation nuclei, the nearly invisible foundations upon which droplets can begin. When a water molecule finds one of these particles, it clings. Others follow, and soon a droplet is born. In fog, millions of these droplets form at once, suspended in the air. They don't fall like rain. They don't freeze like snow. They simply float, in balance. To our eyes, this collection of droplets becomes visible. Fog, mist, cloud at ground level. But really, it's just the air, gently letting go of what it could no longer hold. The dew point plays a central role in this transformation. This is the temperature at which air becomes saturated when condensation begins. When fog forms, it's because the air has reached or dropped below this point. Not by much, just enough to tip the scale. The process is incredibly efficient and incredibly delicate. A tiny change in temperature, sometimes just a single degree, can mean the difference between clear skies and thick fog. This is why fog often forms during the quietest hours, when cooling is slow and steady, when there's no rush, when the world is still enough to let vapor drift downward into form. There is no drama in condensation, no thunder, no flash, just transformation, soft and unseen. In a way, condensation is the atmosphere's way of becoming visible, of showing us its breath, of reminding us that even the clearest air holds water, waiting for the right moment to appear. You can observe condensation in small ways too, on a cold glass on a summer day, on the mirror after a warm shower, on grass before the sun has risen. These are all signs that air and water are in conversation, deciding where moisture belongs. In fog, this conversation fills entire landscapes. It paints the world with softness. It turns light into glow, sound into hush. So the next time you step into a foggy morning, know that you are walking through millions of decisions, tiny moments of condensation, vapor becoming water, air becoming cloud, and all of it so quiet. Somewhere in the stillness of night, the air reaches a quiet decision. A balance is struck, soft, unseen, and weightless. And in that moment of perfect agreement between temperature and moisture, fog begins to bloom. This chapter is a gentle journey to that point, the dew point. In meteorology, the dew point is the temperature at which air becomes fully saturated with water vapor. It's a threshold, a kind of atmospheric tipping point. When the temperature of the air falls to meet this point, the air can hold no more invisible moisture, and so it begins to release it, drop by drop, as condensation. And if that condensation occurs near the ground, not up, high in the sky where clouds usually gather, then fog forms. It is a simple truth, but one that feels magical when seen from the inside. The sky, now touching the earth, has arrived not with thunder or cold front, but with a whisper. On calm, clear nights, the ground cools slowly. As it loses heat, it chills the air above it, especially near the surface. And when this air cools to its dew point, the invisible becomes visible. Tiny droplets of water form and begin to hang in the air, gently, softly, with no hurry at all. These droplets don't fall, they don't race, they simply appear and stay. The dew point is not a fixed number, it shifts with the amount of moisture in the air. On humid days, the dew point is higher because there's more vapor waiting in the wings. On dry days, it's lower, and condensation becomes less likely. But when conditions are just right, moist air, cooling temperatures, and little to no wind, the dew point becomes more than a number. It becomes a doorway, a quiet invitation for clouds to walk among us. This is the science behind fog, but softened here into something that feels more like a dream. Because standing in fog feels like standing inside a thought that hasn't finished forming. Everything is there, but muted. Details fade, edges dissolve. The world becomes quieter, dimmer, and somehow closer. When the temperature hovers right at the dew point, fog can persist for hours. It might roll slowly through a field, drift between street lamps, or settle gently over a sleeping town. And then, when the sun raises or a breeze begins to stir, the balance shifts once again. The air warms and the fog quietly disappears. The dance of temperature and moisture continues all day, but rarely is it as visible as in this moment of morning mist. This quiet meeting point, this dew point dream. You don't need to remember the numbers. You don't need to calculate saturation or relative humidity. You only need to feel the softness of air when it holds water in suspension, when it chooses to become something more than vapor, something you can see and walk through and feel. So the next time the world turns foggy and still, you'll know, somewhere above the soil, the temperature and dew point shook hands, and the sky came down to dream beside you. What does it mean to breathe a cloud? It may sound like poetry, but with fog, it becomes quite real. Fog is, after all, a cloud you can touch, not one that floats far overhead, but one that walks beside you, soft, wet, and close enough to breathe in. As you step into fog, you're moving through millions of tiny droplets suspended in air, each one small enough to remain weightless, but present enough to catch on your skin, your eyelashes, your lips. It's like walking through air that has weight, like the sky has decided to become more tangible, just for a little while. These droplets are incredibly small, often just 10 to 15 microns wide. that's smaller than a grain of flour, but together they scatter light, obscure distant shapes, and make the air appear white, grey, or silver. And yet, despite their presence, fog remains easy to breathe. Unlike smoke or dust, these droplets are clean and cool. They don't clog or irritate. They glide in and out with every breath you take, moistening your nose and throat, adding softness to your inhale. The science behind this is simple. Fog droplets are liquid water, not harmful particles. They are the result of condensation, when moist air cools to its dew point and begins to form droplets around microscopic particles in the atmosphere. But that explanation hardly captures the feeling. Fog on your skin feels like damp silk. It's not wet in the way rain is. There's no dripping, no soaking. But after a few moments, your hair may collect beads of moisture, your sleeves may feel heavier, and your breath may carry a faint chill as it mixes with a suspended cloud around you. There's something comforting in it. To be inside a cloud and still be safe. To feel enveloped but not overwhelmed. And because fog scatters sound as well as light, the world becomes quieter. Footsteps are muffled, voices become gentler. Even the wind seems to slow, as if it too is wrapped in cotton. To breathe in the fog is to share a space with the sky itself, to take in a little piece of the atmosphere's softest state, and to do so gently, sleepily, without rush. It's a shared stillness. Children sometimes try to catch fog with their hands. Adults walk through it without thinking. But those who pause, who really stop to feel, may notice how it clings, how it moves around them, how it breathes back. In this moment, you are not beneath the clouds. You are within them, and that, perhaps, is one of fog's most intimate gifts, to let us move through the atmosphere not as observers, but as participants, to breathe it in, to feel it settle on our skin, to know, without needing to explain, that the sky is not always above us. Sometimes we are inside it, name, and in that stillness, sometimes, fog appears, soft, slow, almost unseen. You may not notice it at first, until a beam of light catches it, and the air begins to glow. Fog is more likely to form at night, and it's no mystery why, though the science, like the fog itself, is gentle. It begins with cooling. When the sun sets and the warmth of the day begins to fade, the earth releases its stored heat back into the sky. This natural cooling process is most effective on clear, calm nights when clouds aren't insulating the ground and winds aren't stirring the air. As the surface of the earth cools, so too does the air just above it. And if that air is moist, perhaps from an earlier rain or a nearby lake, it may cool enough to reach the dew point. Once that happens, the vapor in the air begins to condense into tiny droplets, and fog begins to form near the ground. This is the birth of radiation fog, the most common nighttime fog. It's quiet and shallow, often no more than a few feet high at first. It gathers in low places, over fields, between trees, along riverbanks, where cool air pools like water. You may have driven through it. At first, everything seems clear. Then, suddenly, the beams of your headlights catch something hanging in the air. A silver shimmer, a glowing veil. That's fog, gently revealing itself in the dark. During the night, fog often thickens. The continued cooling of the ground allows more air to condense, deepening the layer of mist. And because the air is usually calm at night, the fog isn't blown away. It simply waits, hovering patiently, draping itself across roads, wrapping around fence posts, gathering at the edges of lakes. It changes how we see the world. Without sunlight, fog becomes more than a blur. It becomes a presence. Streetlights bloom into orbs, windows glisten with dew, and distant sounds become faint, softened by the droplets that now fill the air. Over water, fog can be even more pronounced. Lakes and ponds tend to retain warmth longer than the land. As cool air moves across their surfaces, moisture rises and meets the chill. This creates localized fog, sometimes called steam fog or evaporation fog, that dances just above the water like ghosts in silver gowns. It's no wonder many stories, old and new, are set in foggy nights. Not because fog is frightening, but because it changes the known into the unknown. It wraps the world in a dream. But here, in this quiet corner of the sleepy meteorologist, we don't fear the fog. We welcome it. We walk into it slowly, like entering a soft memory. We let it blur what we don't need to see. So, the next time you find yourself driving late at night and the road begins to disappear into a glowing silver mist, know that the air has reached its quiet tipping point. The temperature has met the dew point. The sky has come down again, and you are simply passing through a moment made of breath and balance. There are forests, and then there are foggy forests. Both are beautiful, but only one feels like a dream. When fog enters the forest, something changes. Not just the air, but everything. The light, the sound, the sense of space. Trees lose their detail and become silhouettes. Tall, dark shapes fading into a soft wall of grey. Their trunks seem to stretch further. Their branches dissolve into the mist. And the deeper you look, the less you see. Fog changes how the forest feels. It takes something familiar and turns it into something sacred. The silence deepens. Even birdsong, if it comes, feels quieter. Footsteps are softer, almost hesitant. This transformation happens because fog doesn't just fill the air. It affects how sound travels. The suspended droplets scatter sound waves, dampening sharp noises and muting echoes. It's as if the entire forest has been lined with velvet. In this softened world, your senses recalibrate. You stop looking far ahead and begin noticing what's close. A droplet clinging to a leaf, the way a spiderweb glistens, the way your own breath curls into the air, then disappears. Fog in forests often forms in the early morning or after a rain. The moist ground feeds the air above, and if temperatures drop just enough, that moisture condenses into fog that drifts between tree trunks and mossy undergrowth. If the forest is in a valley, the effect is even more pronounced. The cooler air sinks, pooling beneath the trees, and fog forms a floor low and flat, just above the ferns and forest debris. Sometimes it clings to the canopy instead, creating a ceiling of mist that floats above the forest like a second sky. And when sunlight breaks through, it does so in shafts. Golden beams, interrupted by moisture, turn into radiant columns of light. They don't illuminate the whole scene, just pieces, just enough. The forest becomes not a place to move through quickly, but one to stand within, to listen, to feel. There's something ancient about a foggy woodland. It speaks in quiet tones. It reminds us that even the wildest places can become still. Scientists can explain fog in forests with ease: humid air, dew point, condensation nuclei. But the feeling it gives is something else. To be in a foggy forest is to step inside a painting that's still being created. Every breath adds a stroke, every drop of mist a soft blur. And while you walk, you're not just in a forest, you're inside the atmosphere itself, breathing it, feeling it on your skin, surrounded by living things all slowing down with you. So, if you ever wander into the woods on a foggy morning, pause. Let the quiet wrap around you. Let the trees stand tall, even if you can't see them all. Because here, in this hush of trunks and mist, the forest has become a lullaby. And you are part of the silence. But sometimes, when temperatures fall just low enough, fog takes on a new form. Colder form, one that touches everything it meets with crystal. This is freezing fog, and it paints the world in delicate frost. Like all fog, freezing fog begins with moisture and cooling. The air must hold enough water vapor, and the temperature must fall to the dew point so that condensation can occur. But in this case, the air is below freezing. Now, this may sound contradictory. After all, shouldn't water freeze once it drops below 0 degrees or 32 degrees? And yet, in the atmosphere, things behave a bit more patiently. Water droplets can remain supercooled, a state where liquid water exists below its normal freezing point. These supercooled droplets float gently in the fog, invisible at first, until they touch something solid. When they do, they freeze on contact. Quietly, instantly, beautifully, branches become lined with tiny needles of ice. Fence wires grow feathers of frost. Even a strand of spider silk can catch the tiniest icy threads. This ice is known as rime. Rime ice forms when supercooled fog droplets land on a surface and freeze in place. It's not smooth like the ice on a pond, nor heavy like sleet. It's light, textured, airy, like frost with dimension. Rime can be divided into two types, soft rime and hard rime. Soft rime is feathery and delicate, what you'll often see on trees during a cold, foggy morning. Hard rime forms in slightly windier conditions, creating rougher, more solid deposits of ice. But in all its forms, rime transforms the landscape. A winter field becomes a sculpture garden. Telephone wires grow fringes. Bare twigs look as if they've grown white fur. Freezing fog typically forms in valleys and basins, especially during long nights when cold air settles low and moisture lingers. It's common in polar regions, but it can also happen in more temperate places during quiet winter nights. If you're ever lucky enough to walk through freezing fog, you'll notice the silence is even deeper. The air feels heavier, but somehow cleaner, and everything you touch seems brittle with beauty. Even sound behaves differently in this world. The ice absorbs it. Snow and frost muffle footsteps. The world becomes a hush within a hush. Meteorologists monitor freezing fog carefully, especially because of its effects on transportation. The ice can form on roads, rail lines, and runways. But here, in our bedtime story, there's no danger, only wonder. Because when fog becomes ice, it leaves a trace. It doesn't vanish into the morning sun like ordinary mist. It remains for a while, a memory made solid. So next time you see trees outlined in white lace, or a railing dusted in what looks like frozen feathers, pause. You may be seeing the sky's touch, made cold, made still. And somewhere in that stillness, fog found a way to stay a little longer. Fog has a preference, a rhythm, a mood, and above all, fog loves stillness. While some weather dances and swirls, fog prefers to linger. It forms best when the air is quiet, when winds are light, and nothing is pushing or pulling too much. It needs space, time, a chance to settle. In meteorological terms, fog formation often depends on low wind speeds. This is especially true for radiation fog, the kind that forms near the ground when surface cooling brings temperatures down to the dew point. If the night is calm, the ground releases its heat steadily into the sky. The air near the surface cools, becomes saturated, and begins to condense into droplets. But if wind is present, especially strong wind, this process is disrupted. Wind stirs the air. It mixes warmer layers above with cooler layers below. It prevents the slow, quiet cooling needed for fog to appear. And if fog has already formed, wind often lifts it, breaking apart the layers, scattering the droplets, and causing it to evaporate back into vapor. It's like trying to build a delicate sculpture in the breeze. It won't hold its shape for long. This is why fog is more common in valleys and low-lying areas. These places are sheltered. They protect fog from wind. Cool air can settle there undisturbed, allowing fog to grow and remain. In fact, meteorologists often consider wind thresholds when forecasting fog. If wind speeds exceed just a few miles per hour, the chance of fog formation begins to fall. Too much wind, and fog simply can't form. There are exceptions, of course. Advection fog, which we explored earlier, requires some wind, but not much. Just a gentle breeze to move warm air over a cool surface. If that wind becomes too strong, even advection fog dissipates. It's a delicate balance. Too little wind, and moisture may pool, but not move. Too much wind, and fog never stands a chance. But just enough stillness, a calm night, a sheltered field, a quiet lake, and the fog can form freely. You may have noticed this in your own life. Perhaps a foggy morning gave way to sun as the breeze picked up. Perhaps an expected mist never formed because of a restless wind. The fog was there, waiting, but the wind asked it to move along. In poetic terms, wind is motion, fog is pause. They don't often share the same space. So, when you find yourself in a place where fog has settled, take a moment to notice the quiet, the lack of movement, the peace. The fog is there because the wind is not. And in that stillness, you're witnessing a balance in the atmosphere. A brief moment when the air chose calm over change. Cities are places of angles and edges, towers stretching into the sky, traffic weaving beneath glowing lights, concrete rising from the earth in straight, certain lines. But when fog enters a city, everything softens. The skyline blurs, light bends, motion slows. This is urban fog, and it brings with it a kind of unexpected hush, a veil draped gently over the architecture of human life. While fog is often associated with natural landscapes, valleys, lakes, and quiet country roads, it finds its way into cities too. And when it does, the transformation is remarkable. Skyscrapers become shadows. Bridges vanish halfway into the mist. Streetlights glow with halos, casting pools of gold into the soft air. At night, city fog is illuminated from below by car lights, neon signs, windows still aglow. The droplets of fog scatter this light in all directions, creating a world of diffused colour and shimmer. This effect, known as light scattering, turns ordinary fixtures into atmospheric paintings. Even the sounds of the city change. Sirens, footsteps, distant trains all become quieter, more muted, as if the fog has lined the streets with silence. Fog in the city typically forms in much the same way as it does in the countryside, when moist air cools to its dew point and begins to condense. But in urban areas, there are additional factors. Heat islands, created by roads and buildings that retain warmth, can interfere with fog formation. At night, however, especially during colder months, these effects can reverse. Moisture from rivers, harbours, and even car exhaust mingles with cooling air trapped between buildings. And when the wind is calm, fog begins to form. Often, it starts low between the buildings, near the streets. Then it climbs, higher, until it obscures entire skylines. From a distance, a foggy city looks dreamlike, like a memory remembered only halfway. The tallest towers disappear into a low-hanging sky. Bridges seem to float above nothing. Windows twinkle dimly in the mist. And from within, it's like walking through a painting. You can see just far enough to keep going, but not far enough to rush. That's one of fog's secret gifts in the city. It invites a slower pace, a break in routine, a softness in a space not usually soft. Even pedestrians tend to move more quietly. Umbrellas appear, not for rain, but for comfort. There's less honking, fewer hurried footsteps. Meteorologists keep a close eye on urban fog because of its impact on transportation, especially visibility for drivers and planes. But here, in this quiet exploration, there's no urgency, only curiosity. Why does fog make the city feel so different? Perhaps because it reminds us of scale, that even the tallest buildings can vanish into mist, that even the brightest lights can be softened. So next time you see fog weaving through a city street, pause. Watch how it curls around lampposts, how it turns a stoplight into a glowing orb, how it blurs the edge of the world just enough, and know that in this moment, the city is not rushing, it's resting, wrapped in a sky that came down for a visit. There's a fog in California that doesn't just visit, it stays. It rolls in after autumn's last warmth fades and lingers through the coldest months, settling low, spreading wide. This is Chul fog, a dense, seasonal fog that forms in California's Central Valley, and it is unlike any other. Named after the Chul grass wetlands that once lined the valley floor, Chul fog is known for its persistence, its thickness, and its tendency to appear like a low, grey sea covering the land. Let's drift into its story. The Central Valley is an expansive, flat stretch of land, hemmed in by mountain ranges on both sides. During winter, this geography creates the perfect cradle for fog to form. After a rainstorm has passed, leaving the ground wet and the air saturated, the skies often clear. Nighttime temperatures drop. The earth cools rapidly, and the air just above it cools with it, eventually reaching the dew point. But because the valley is so flat, and because the surrounding mountains trap the air, cold air begins to pool across the valley floor. And with little wind to stir it, and warmer air above, a temperature inversion forms, a blanket of warm air pressing down on the colder air below, trapping it. This inversion locks in the moisture and coolness, and the result is Chul fog, thick, persistent, and often stretching for hundreds of miles. Drivers in the Central Valley know it well, a fog so dense it can reduce visibility to just a few feet. But here, we won't rush through it. We won't fear it. We'll just observe. Chul fog sits low to the ground, rarely more than a few hundred feet deep. Above it, the sky can be crystal clear and blue. But down below, the world feels tucked in, muted, cocooned. Farms disappear, orchards fade into white. Barn roofs peek through like islands in a sea of quiet. Unlike other fogs that lift with the morning sun, Chul fog is known for its tenacity. It may linger all day, for several days, sometimes even weeks, broken only by strong winds or a change in weather pattern. It moves slowly, if at all. There's no hurry, only presence. And though it can cause disruptions, delaying flights, obscuring roads, it also brings something gentle to the season. A kind of pause, a softness, a reminder that winter in California isn't always bright and dry. Sometimes it's quiet, damp, still. Meteorologists study Chul fog to understand air quality, visibility, and how long an inversion might last. But outside the lab, It simply becomes part of life. Locals grow used to it. Children wake to foggy mornings and bundle up for the walk to school. Farmers work in silhouettes. And everyone learns to listen a little more carefully when sight grows short. So, if you ever find yourself in California's Central Valley between November and February, and the world outside your window is white, hushed, and still, you're witnessing Tule fog. A fog that doesn't just pass through, it rests, it covers, it waits. And within that waiting, a kind of winter calm begins. On cold mornings, your breath becomes visible. You exhale, and for a moment, a small cloud forms in the air before you. It curls softly, then fades. That puff, so delicate, so fleeting, is fog too. Not just a metaphor, not just a visual trick, but a tiny, personal moment of condensation. Let's pause and gently explore what's really happening when breath meets cold air, and how your body, just for a moment, becomes part of the fog. The air you breathe out is warm and moist. It has travelled through your lungs, picking up water vapour along the way. Each exhalation carries that vapour with it, soft, invisible, drifting. But the outside air, especially on cold mornings, is much cooler. And cool air can't hold as much moisture as warm air. So, as your breath exits your mouth and meets the cold, the temperature of that moist air suddenly drops. In that instant, condensation begins. Water vapour in your breath begins to cling to microscopic particles in the air, tiny bits of dust, salt, or even pollen. And just like in the formation of fog, these particles become condensation nuclei, the starting points for droplets to form. What you see is not smoke. It's not steam. It's a cloud of tiny water droplets, fog in miniature, floating in the air you just exhaled. This phenomenon is more noticeable when it's very cold, typically below 10 degrees C or 50 degrees Celsius. The colder the air, the faster your warm breath condenses. And in freezing conditions, you might even see tiny ice crystals forming within that puff, creating exhaled fog that sparkles before vanishing. It's a private, portable weather event, one that follows you through the morning, one that reminds you that your body, too, is part of the atmosphere. In especially cold places, animals show the same effect. Horses, dogs, even birds, each breath becomes visible. A silent chorus of clouds drifting upward in the morning chill. And if you're walking through real fog at the same time, your own breath blends right in, joining the mist already hanging in the air, becoming one with the landscape. There's something magical about this tiny interaction. It's fleeting, yes, but also deeply human. It shows that fog is not a distant phenomenon. It isn't only something that appears over fields or lakes. It happens in front of you, because of you. It's a reminder of connection between body and breath, between self and sky. And though meteorologists might describe it in terms of temperature differentials or relative humidity thresholds, we can experience it more simply, as a breath made visible. So, next time you step out on a chilly morning and see your breath rise into the cold air, take a moment. Watch how it curls, how it floats, how it disappears, and know that in that brief moment, you've created fog, you've joined the weather, you've seen warmth become cloud, and that is beautiful. Fog changes what we see and how far we can see. It doesn't build walls or close roads in a dramatic sense. Instead, it gently erases, one layer at a time. You step into the fog and the horizon vanishes. The familiar becomes mysterious. The world shrinks to just what's around you. This effect is called reduced visibility, and it's one of the defining features of fog. In meteorology, We define fog as a condition where visibility drops to less than 1 kilometer, or about 2/3 of a mile. That threshold isn't arbitrary. It's the point where the atmosphere becomes thick enough with suspended droplets that objects farther away begin to disappear completely into mist. You may not notice the change all at once. It can creep in slowly from the edges of the field, across the road, or through your backyard. But eventually, fog surrounds you, and the world becomes something smaller and quieter. Visibility isn't only about how far you can see, it's about how much light can travel through the air. In clear air, light moves freely, bouncing off objects and returning to your eyes. But in fog, the suspended droplets scatter that light in all directions. It becomes diffused, softened, edges blur, colors fade. A tree 100 meters away becomes a shadow. A car's headlights bloom into glowing orbs. A fence seems to stop existing just a few paces ahead. This can create a sense of disorientation, but also, strangely, a sense of calm. In the fog, you are left only with what's close, what's near, what matters now, and that closeness can feel safe. Meteorologists use visibility sensors at airports and weather stations to measure how far a person could see through the fog. Pilots, in particular, rely on these readings when flying, but here on the ground, we simply feel the change. And it isn't always uniform. Fog can be patchy, clearing one moment, then thickening the next. Sometimes you'll drive through layers, fog, then none, then fog again. Each pocket has its own temperature, its own moisture balance. There are levels to this softness. Meteorologists also classify fog into light, moderate, or dense, depending on visibility distance. Dense fog with visibility under 200 meters can feel like walking through a dream. Everything close, everything hushed. But no matter how thick the fog becomes, it doesn't block your way. It simply encourages you to slow down, to look more carefully, to feel more present. And when the sun rises or a breeze stirs, fog often begins to lift. The world slowly returns. First the outlines, then the shapes, then the full scene. But while it lasts, fog teaches us something simple: how to live within a smaller frame, how to find peace in the nearby, how to move gently when the path ahead is unseen. So the next time you walk into a morning wrapped in mist, don't rush. Let the world blur. And remember, there's beauty in the softened edge. Fog doesn't just change how the world looks, it changes how the world feels, how it sounds, how it smells. On foggy mornings, the air becomes more than air. It becomes a soft presence. It hushes the world's noise while gently amplifying its scent. Let's pause and drift into the sensory side of fog. Start with sound. When fog surrounds you, the world seems quieter. It's not your imagination. Fog, made of countless tiny water droplets suspended in the air, scatters and absorbs sound waves. Higher-pitched sounds, especially, don't travel as far. Birdsong becomes muted. Distant cars become a distant hum. Even your own footsteps feel softer. It's not silence exactly, but something gentler, a hush. This phenomenon, known as sound attenuation, means that fog acts like a natural muffler. The water droplets in the air break up the sound waves, dampening them, bending them, softening them. Even in the city, a foggy morning can make traffic sound farther away, closer, yet dimmer, like the world has lowered its voice. Now shift to scent. Because fog doesn't just quiet sound, it enhances smell. This happens for two reasons. First, moist air carries odor molecules more effectively. The added humidity in fog allows scents to linger and travel more easily, Second, cooler, heavier air holds those scents closer to the ground, right where we breathe. So, as you walk through fog, you may notice the damp earth more clearly, the scent of leaves, of wood, of something distant and green. Even smells from chimneys or kitchens can seem stronger, more vivid. Fog wraps those scents around you like a shawl. Not overwhelming, just present. In forests, fog brings the scent of pine and moss. In cities, it might carry hints of stone and rain-washed pavement. Near the sea, salt and brine float through the mist. Each place gives its own breath to the fog, and the fog holds it. This makes fog feel personal, like it's whispering something only you can hear, or smell, or sense. Even animals respond. Some birds grow quieter, others sing more slowly. Deer and foxes move carefully, listening with precision, adjusting to a world that has been dampened and blurred. It's easy to overlook the way fog affects our senses. We often focus on what it hides: visibility, distance, outlines. But in hiding some things, fog reveals others. It invites you to notice the near, to feel the weight of quiet, to breathe deeply and truly notice what the world smells like. It's a sensory inversion. You see less, but you hear and smell more. So the next time fog surrounds you, pause. Close your eyes just for a moment. Listen to the soft echo of your footsteps. Breathe in and see what the air has to say. The fog is not just in the air, it is the air, cool, fragrant, muffled, a whisper for your senses. In certain forests, fog doesn't just pass through. It gives. It lingers in the branches, rests on leaves, and slowly, drop by drop, becomes water. This quiet process is known as fog drip, and in cloud forests across the world, it helps entire ecosystems survive. Let's rise gently into the mist of these magical forests, where clouds and trees exist not separately, but together. In high-altitude regions, such as parts of Central America, the Andes, or coastal mountain ranges, forests grow where moisture-laden clouds frequently pass through the trees. Here, the clouds don't stay above. They move through the forest canopy. They cling. As fog drifts through branches, its tiny droplets collide with the surfaces of leaves, needles, moss, and even spiderwebs. Each droplet sticks. More arrive. And soon, the moisture begins to accumulate. Once enough water has collected on these surfaces, gravity takes over. The droplets fall slowly, silently, like gentle rain. This is fog drip. It can occur even when no rain has fallen, even under clear skies above. In places where fog is frequent, fog drip contributes significantly to the water cycle. In fact, in some regions, 25% to 75% of a forest's total moisture intake can come from fog, not from rainstorms, but from clouds that brush the trees. It's the sky watering the earth in its quietest form. The water that gathers from fog drip feeds the soil. It nourishes ferns, mosses, lichens. It seeps into roots and replenishes groundwater. It sustains animals who drink from the drops that form on leaf tips. And unlike rain, which can arrive quickly and leave just as fast, fog drip is slow, steady, patient. It may continue for hours or even days, a near constant drizzle, fed not by storm systems, but by the simple contact between leaf and cloud. Meteorologists and ecologists study fog drip using special instruments, fog collectors, mesh nets, and collection troughs. But in the forest itself, you don't need tools to feel it. Just stand still, look up, and listen. The mist above will begin to gather on the leaves. You'll hear the occasional drip, then another, then a rhythm. Sometimes the forest doesn't need a storm, it only needs the presence of cloud, and that presence becomes sustenance. This is most common in what we call cloud forests, where elevation and humidity combine to keep the trees wrapped in mist for much of the year. These forests are lush, green, and often filled with epiphytes, plants that grow directly on the branches of other plants, drinking in the moisture from fog. It's a world built not on heavy rains, but on drifting clouds that pause long enough to give. So, if you ever wander into a forest where the mist lingers, look closely, touch a leaf, watch as droplets gather and fall. You're witnessing one of the atmosphere's softest gifts, fog becoming rain, without thunder, without storm, just cloud and tree in quiet conversation. Imagine a place where the clouds touch the earth and people reach up, gently catching them. This isn't a fantasy, it's real, and it's happening in quiet corners of the world where fog becomes something more than atmosphere. It becomes drinking water. Tonight, let's drift into the beautiful science of fog harvesting, a practice that turns mist into moisture, clouds into clean, usable water. In arid and coastal regions, especially where rainfall is scarce but fog is abundant, communities have learned to collect water straight from the sky's breath. They do this using gentle, low-impact structures called fog nets or fog catchers. These nets are typically made of fine mesh, woven from materials that resist corrosion and capture moisture. When fog drifts through them, tiny droplets collect on the surface of the mesh. As more droplets gather, they merge and eventually grow heavy enough to trickle down into a trough below. From there, the water can be filtered, stored, and used. For drinking, for cooking, for farming. It's simple, elegant, and beautifully sustainable. The concept isn't new. Nature has been doing it for ages. Certain desert plants, like the coastal cacti of Chile and Peru, are naturally shaped to trap moisture from fog. Their spines guide droplets downward, directing water to their roots. Inspired by these designs, scientists and engineers have created synthetic fog catchers, tools that mimic nature's quiet efficiency. These systems work best in places with frequent, predictable fog, especially along coastlines, where advection fog is common. That's the kind formed when warm, moist air moves over cool ground or water, drifting inland with regular rhythm. In parts of Morocco, Ethiopia, Chile, and even California, fog harvesting has become a life-giving source. In the Atacama Desert, often called the driest place on Earth, fog catchers have helped entire communities access fresh water without needing wells or rainfall. And because the process uses no electricity or moving parts, it's remarkably gentle on the environment. No emissions, no drilling, just quiet structures standing in the mist, collecting what the clouds have to offer. The water they gather is clean, made of pure condensation, free from salt or heavy minerals. In many cases, it only needs minimal filtering before it's ready to drink. Fog harvesting also offers something symbolic, a reminder that even in the most parched places, the atmosphere is always offering something, a little moisture, a little relief, and all it takes is a way to catch it. From a distance, fog catchers look like art installations, grids of fabric strung across wooden or metal frames, swaying softly in the breeze. But up close, you can watch them working, beads forming, dripping, flowing down into gentle troughs. It's a kind of weather alchemy, turning vapor into vitality. As climate change reshapes rainfall patterns across the world, fog harvesting offers a peaceful, practical solution, a way to live with the sky, to listen to it, to receive from it without force. So, if you ever find yourself near the coast and see a mesh net standing in the mist, pause. You're witnessing the sky giving something back, not with thunder, not with storm, just with presence. Fog, caught with care, transformed into life. Once upon a time, fog didn't just drift through London. It lingered, it thickened, and it carried more than just mist. It carried smoke, and with it, a lesson. Tonight, we'll walk gently through the history of London fogs, where atmosphere met industry, and the result changed science and policy forever. For centuries, fog was a familiar part of life in London. The city's location on the River Thames meant that moist air often pooled in its low-lying streets. Especially in winter, fog would roll in, soft and grey, at first, like anywhere else. But as the city grew, as coal fires warmed homes, powered factories, and fueled the Industrial Revolution, the air changed. Smoke from millions of chimneys mixed with the natural fog. Particles of soot, ash, and tar clung to the suspended droplets in the air. The fog darkened, it thickened, and it began to smell of coal and chemicals. By the 1800s, these events had a name: pea soupers, so called for their yellow-green tint and dense, choking quality. Not poetic, not gentle, but real. During these fogs, visibility dropped to just a few feet. People lost their way crossing the street. Horses had to be guided by lanterns, and indoor lamps glowed dimly in the haze. But it wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. The fog wasn't just water vapor, it was pollution, and those breathing it in were breathing in soot and sulfur. For many, it caused illness. For some, it proved fatal. The worst of these events came in December 1952, during what is now called the Great Smog of London. Over the course of just a few days, a perfect storm of cold air, high pressure, and stagnant conditions trapped polluted fog over the city. Public transportation stopped. Concerts were cancelled because no one could see the stage. And more than 4,000 deaths were recorded in that short span, many more in the weeks that followed. It was a turning point. The Great Smog led to a wave of public outcry, and in response, the British government passed the Clean Air Act of 1956, which began the long process of removing coal-burning stoves, regulating industrial emissions, and reclaiming the sky. And yet, the memory lingers. Today, when fog drifts across the Thames, it is softer, cleaner, safer. But echoes of history remain in literature, in film, in the collective memory of a city once cloaked in soot. We still romanticize London fog, the lamplit streets, the blurred outlines, the mystery. But underneath the aesthetic lies a lesson. That air is alive, that it holds what we put into it, and that the sky, once sickened, can recover. Fogs, on its own, is harmless, gentle, a gift of condensation. But when mixed with pollution, it becomes something else, a warning, a call to pay attention. So, if you ever walk the streets of London on a foggy morning, know that what surrounds you is not what it once was. The air is cleaner now, the fog just fog. But the history in the mist still whispers. High in the mountains, the sky is closer, and sometimes it comes all the way down. At these altitudes, fog and cloud become indistinguishable, two words for the same gentle phenomenon. We often think of fog as something that hugs the earth, and clouds as something that floats far above us. But on mountaintops, that distinction fades. You can walk into a cloud and call it fog. This is mountain fog, and it doesn't drift upward from the valley. It arrives from the sky itself, low-hanging clouds that brush the ridgelines, curl around cliffs, and turn sharp peaks into soft silhouettes. It begins with moist air rising, drawn upward by winds or terrain. As the air climbs, it cools, and when it cools to its dew point, condensation begins. Tiny water droplets form and remain suspended in the air, creating a thick, damp fog that clings to the mountain like a breath that hasn't quite exhaled. This is known as orographic fog, orographic meaning shaped by the mountains themselves. It's the atmosphere responding to topography, to elevation, to the way the earth rises into the sky. On some mornings, a single mountain peak may be visible above the fog, an island of stone in a sea of mist. On other days, entire ranges vanish into whiteness, reappearing only as the fog shifts or thins. To hike into this fog is to step into softness. The air feels cooler. Your breath becomes visible. Every rock and branch glistens with moisture. Sound becomes distant. Edges blur, and time somehow slows. Mountain fog can be unpredictable. It may roll in quickly, sweeping across a ridge in moments, or it may settle gently, staying for hours. Its presence depends on temperature, humidity, wind, and slope. Some of the most famous mountain landscapes, the Scottish Highlands, the Andes, the Blue Ridge Mountains, owe part of their mystery to the way fog transforms them. Even seasoned climbers know the respect fog commands. Visibility drops, landmarks vanish. But for us, in this peaceful moment of storytelling, we are not lost in the fog. We are resting in it, watching as a distant summit fades from view, only to reappear when the light shifts. In cloud forests, those lush, mist-fed ecosystems found in tropical highlands, fog is a daily visitor. It nourishes moss, feeds epiphytes, and turns every leaf into a drinking cup. Here, fog is life itself. But even outside the tropics, mountain fog carries a quiet lesson. That height brings exposure, but also mystery. That the higher you go, the closer you get to the clouds, until they surround you. So, if you ever stand on a mountaintop and feel the air thicken, if the sky disappears into whiteness and the horizon is nowhere to be seen, you are not above the fog. You are inside it. Let it swirl. Let it wrap around you. Let the mountaintop vanish. It will return, and so will you. But for now, rest in the cloud. Some fogs rise with drama. Others settle with grace. Radiation fog is the gentlest kind. It doesn't drift in from the sea or cling to cliffs. It forms slowly, silently, when the earth cools itself after sunset. Let's wander through the process, softly, like the fog itself. When the sun sets and night begins, the Earth's surface begins to lose heat. This natural cooling is called radiational cooling, a process where heat absorbed during the day is released back into the sky. On clear, calm nights, when there are no clouds to trap heat and no wind to mix the air, this cooling happens efficiently. The ground grows cold, and with it, the air just above it begins to cool as well. If the air is humid enough and the temperature drops to the dew point, water vapor begins to condense, not into rain, not into frost, but into countless tiny droplets suspended just above the ground. This is radiation fog, and it forms in low places, valleys, meadows, open fields, where cooler, heavier air naturally sinks and rests. You might see it at dawn, stretching across farmland like a soft grey blanket, or along the edge of a forest, just beginning to lift as sunlight touches the treetops. Unlike fogs that are thick and tall, radiation fog tends to stay low, just a few meters high. From a distance, it looks like mist tucked between hills, or a ghost of cloud following. The lay of the land. It forms after midnight, deepens toward morning, and usually burns away with the warming sun. But during its quiet hours, it transforms the world. Sound is hushed, light is scattered, and the landscape becomes dreamlike. Meteorologists recognize radiation fog as a key part of the diurnal cycle, the natural rhythm of heating and cooling that plays out each day and night. It's most common in autumn and early winter, when the nights are longer and the ground has time to release its warmth. Farmers wake to it, photographers chase it, and early risers walk through it, watching their own breath mingle with the mist step by step. Radiation fog requires stillness. Even a light wind can mix the air enough to prevent it. That's why it's rare on blustery nights. It prefers peace. You may have driven through it, a clear night, giving way to a sudden veil across the road. Low, thick, unmoving. But here, in this quiet chapter, we're not hurrying through it. We're standing still, watching how the earth exhales and how the air listens. No drama, no urgency, just temperature falling, moisture gathering, and fog forming, because the night was calm enough to let it. So, if you ever wake to a morning where the trees stand in a silver field, and the sky is still deciding how bright it wants to be, you're seeing radiation fog, born from balance, cradled in quiet, gone by noon. But while it lasts, the world rests within it, and so can you. Some fogs settle in place, others drift like dreams on the move. One of the gentlest travelling fogs is advection fog. It doesn't rise from stillness, nor fall from great heights. It forms through motion, soft, slow, deliberate motion, when warm, moist air glides over a cooler surface. It's a fog that moves, like a quiet tide sweeping across the land. The word advection describes the horizontal movement of air, not the vertical lifting that creates other cloud types. This sideways flow is the key. When warm, moisture-rich air begins to move across ground or water that's significantly cooler, the air nearest to the surface begins to cool. If it cools to its dew point, condensation begins. Tiny droplets form, and fog is born. This process can happen over water, over land, or both. But it's most famous along coastlines, where cold ocean currents meet warmer breezes from inland. Imagine the Pacific coast of California, or the shores of Newfoundland, places where the ocean is cool, and the inland air often holds warmth and moisture. When the wind blows inland, the moist air is forced to pass over the cold sea or soil. It cools, it condenses, and soon fog begins to roll. But it doesn't appear all at once. Advection fog often drifts. It begins offshore, low and wide, and slowly makes its way toward land. From a distance, it looks like a silver curtain approaching the coast. Boats vanish into it. Lighthouses blink dimly through its folds. Then, it spills over cliffs, seeps into harbours, and drapes itself across coastal towns. Unlike radiation fog, which often burns off after sunrise, advection fog can last much longer. As long as the conditions persist, moisture in motion, surface below remaining cool, the fog continues. Sometimes it hugs the ground. Other times it rises, wrapping trees and buildings in a soft embrace. And because the process is ongoing, this fog refreshes itself. New moisture keeps moving in. New droplets keep forming. That's why you might wake to a foggy morning and watch it linger until late afternoon. You can even feel advection fog as it arrives. The air cools slightly, your skin feels damp, and suddenly the view shortens. Everything fades. Lights take on halos, voices soften, and motion slows. Advection fog is common in places with strong coastal contrasts, where warm land and cool sea meet. But it can also occur inland, especially when warm, humid air flows over cold ground, like snow-covered plains or recently cooled valleys. Meteorologists can predict it based on temperature maps, dew point readings, and wind direction. But for those of us simply walking through it, no data is needed. You'll know when it arrives, because the world will become quieter, closer, and the air will feel like it's touching you with every step. So next time you see fog rolling in from the sea or sweeping across a chilled field, you're watching a journey unfold. Warm air, cool earth, and a cloud drifting gently between them. Fog doesn't always stay low. Sometimes it climbs. There are fogs that seem to know the landscape. They follow its curves. They rise with its shape. They move upward, step by step, breath by breath. This is upslope fog, formed when moist air is pushed up a hill or mountainside by a gentle breeze. It begins with wind, not a strong gust, but a steady, upward-moving current of moist air. As the air moves higher along the slope, it begins to cool. This happens not because the air itself is getting colder, but because of the decrease in pressure at higher altitudes. As air rises, it expands, and as it expands, it cools. This cooling is called adiabatic cooling, a quiet, natural process that happens anytime air moves upward in the atmosphere. If the air cools to its dew point as it rises, condensation begins. Tiny droplets form, and fog appears. But unlike radiation fog that forms close to the ground, or advection fog that rolls in sideways, upslope fog forms from the bottom up. It climbs. At first, it may appear as low mist in a valley. Then it begins to rise along the hillside, softening trees, blurring fences, hiding paths. Eventually, it may wrap the entire slope in whiteness, rising all the way to the ridge. From a distance, you can see it ascending, a slow, foggy tide climbing the land. And from within, you feel it as a gradual transition. With each step uphill, the fog becomes thicker. The air becomes wetter, and the view behind you disappears. Upslope fog is common in places where moisture-laden air meets high terrain. This could be the eastern plains of Colorado, the Appalachian foothills, or even the gentle slopes of coastal cliffs. The fog doesn't rush. It follows the land, respecting its rise. It reveals the power of air in motion and the patience of weather. For hikers, upslope fog creates a dreamy experience. Familiar trails feel different. Forests become softer. Everything above becomes unknown, until you walk into it. In some cases, upslope fog can stretch for miles, not just a patch of mist, but a long, continuous belt of cloud. And because the air is constantly being lifted, this fog may persist longer than other types. As long as the upslope wind continues, the fog continues to form. Meteorologists study it to understand local weather patterns, especially in mountainous regions where visibility is key. But here, in our quiet moment, we're not forecasting. We're simply walking along a path where fog is climbing, and we climb with it. So, if you ever stand at the base of a hill and see fog slowly crawling upward, know that it isn't falling from the sky. It's rising from below, guided by terrain, carried by breeze. Step into it, climb with it, let the land shape your path, and let the fog show you that even clouds can climb. There's a kind of magic that rises from still water on a cool morning. You step outside, and there it is, mist curling upward from the surface of a lake, as if the water itself is exhaling. This is evaporation fog, sometimes called steam fog, a quiet meeting of warmth and cold, where invisible vapor becomes visible breath. It forms when cool air flows over warm water. The temperature difference doesn't have to be extreme, but it must be enough to cause the water's surface to release moisture into the colder air above. Imagine a lake after a warm night. The water retains its heat, slow to cool, slow to change. But the air above it, especially just before sunrise, has grown chilly. As that cool air glides across the warmer surface, water begins to evaporate. This newly added vapor rises briefly, but the cold air can't hold it for long. It cools quickly, and as it cools, it condenses into tiny droplets, forming wisps of fog that hover and drift just above the water. To the eye, it looks like the lake is steaming, not in anger, but in silence, in softness. The fog dances across the surface, trailing behind ducks, curling around stones, swirling like ghostly fingers in the air. It doesn't rise far, usually just a few feet above the surface. But what it lacks in height, it makes up for in beauty. This fog is most common in early morning, when the contrast between air and water temperatures is greatest. It also forms after cold fronts pass, when chilly air arrives suddenly over bodies of water still warmed by previous days. You'll often see it over lakes, rivers, marshes, and even puddles on quiet roads. Anywhere moisture lingers and warmth remains. Unlike some fogs that spread for miles, evaporation fog is local. It stays close to its source, loyal to the warmth beneath it. Photographers love it. Fishermen greet it. Walkers pause to admire it. And those awake early enough may witness the moment it forms, as if the lake, stirred by the dawn, has decided to speak in mist. Sometimes the fog thickens, especially if there's a steady supply of cold air moving in. Other times, it remains delicate, vanishing as the sun rises higher. But while it lasts, it creates a kind of visual poetry. Reflections blur, edges soften, sounds seem to travel farther over the water, and you, watching from the shore, feel something ancient, something shared by rivers and breath, because what you're seeing is air in motion, water in transition, the invisible made visible, just for a moment. So the next time you see mist rising from a lake, take it in slowly. That is the sky and the water in quiet conversation. A gentle warmth meeting a gentle chill. And from that meeting, fog, not a storm, not a front, just a breath from the surface, curling toward the sky. In the coldest corners of the world, the sea breathes differently. It exhales in silence, long trails of mist rising into air so cold, they freeze your breath before you finish it. This is Arctic sea smoke, a form of fog born from extremes. Unlike the soft fogs of warm valleys or sleepy lakes, sea smoke forms when very cold air passes over relatively warmer water, typically in polar regions, where temperatures plunge far below freezing. Picture a dark ocean surface, still unfrozen despite the surrounding chill. Beneath the surface, the water is warmer than the air above, sometimes by tens of degrees. When frigid air sweeps across that water, the sea begins to evaporate, releasing moisture into the colder atmosphere above. But the air is too cold to hold it. The vapor condenses almost instantly, forming delicate wisps of fog that rise like steam, then curl and drift across the waves. From a distance, it looks like the sea is smoking, like clouds are escaping from the water, like something ancient and powerful is breathing slowly in the cold. This is not smoke, of course. It's fog, made of supercooled droplets that remain liquid even below freezing. But it behaves more like steam than most fogs. It rises quickly, moves with the breeze, and often forms dramatic, sculpted plumes. Arctic sea smoke is most common in winter, especially in places where ocean waters stay open while the air above freezes, like the coasts of Greenland, Siberia, Canada, or northern Scandinavia. Sometimes it forms over lakes, too, especially deep lakes that retain warmth late into winter. To stand near it is to feel contrast. Warmth below, cold above, and between them, fog in motion. Unlike radiation fog, which clings to the ground, or valley fog, which lingers in silence, sea smoke swirls. It dances. It seems alive. And yet, it is fleeting. As soon as the air warms slightly, or the wind shifts, the fog begins to dissipate. Its existence depends on balance, and that balance is always delicate. Pilots and mariners know it well. Sea smoke can reduce visibility, but more often it's simply a sign that the ocean is still warmer than the air, that winter has arrived, and that the sky and sea are speaking in steam. You might think of it as dramatic, but here, in this gentle space, we see it as beautiful, a rare expression of the coldest places on Earth. And just like all fogs, it reminds us that the atmosphere is alive, that warmth can rise even in frozen places, and that the boundary between water and sky is always moving. So, if you ever find yourself near the edge of a frozen shore, watch the sea breathe. That mist curling across the surface, that's Arctic sea smoke, and it's the planet inhaling warmth and exhaling sky. Fog doesn't always stay with us. Sometimes it rises. What begins as a cloud on the ground can, over time, lift quietly upward, rejoining the sky above. The low-lying mist becomes something higher, broader, and once again unseen from within. This gentle transformation is part of fog's life cycle, and it happens not with a sudden gust, but with a whisper of warmth or the soft hand of a breeze. Fog and cloud are made of the same thing, tiny droplets of water suspended in air. What separates them is height. When these droplets form near the surface, close enough to walk through, breathe in, or touch, we call it fog. But as soon as that moist layer lifts, rising even just a few hundred feet into the air, it becomes a low cloud. This change happens when the air begins to warm, either from the sun's rays after dawn, or from a shift in temperature due to weather patterns. As the surface heats, it warms the air just above it. That air becomes lighter, more buoyant. It begins to rise, carrying the fog's droplets along with it. At the same time, a light wind might begin to stir. And though fog prefers stillness, a soft breeze can gently mix the air, lifting the fog layer upward, stretching it thin, spreading it into sky. This process doesn't always look dramatic. Often, it's so slow that you don't notice it at first. You might see the horizon begin to sharpen, the tops of trees reappear, the distance becomes clearer, and when you look up, there it is, a layer of grey, flat cloud above you, hovering where the fog used to be. This low cloud is often stratus, broad, uniform, and dull in colour. It's the sky's way of keeping the fog close, but no longer within reach. On some days, the fog lifts completely and the clouds dissolve. On others, the lifted fog simply hovers, a blanket above, diffusing the light, but no longer wrapped around your feet. For pilots and meteorologists, this transition is important. A low ceiling of clouds can still affect visibility for aircraft, but it's different from being inside the fog itself. To those of us on the ground, the lifting of fog feels like a slow reveal. Soft unveiling of the world, a gentle goodbye. There is something tender in watching fog become cloud. It's not disappearing, just moving, not ending, just rising. So, if you ever wake to a foggy morning and step outside, and an hour later the air is clearer and the sky is pale and low, you're witnessing that quiet shift. Fog, letting go of the ground and returning to the sky it came from. And in that moment, neither above nor below, you stand between worlds. There is a certain beauty found only in fog, not in the way it hides the world, but in how it transforms light. When fog rolls in, it doesn't just blur edges, it bends brightness. It wraps light in softness and turns the ordinary into something almost sacred. This is the quiet magic of light scattering. And in fog, it creates halos, glows, and shimmering effects that turn street lamps into stars, and the moon into a silver dream. Fog is made of countless tiny water droplets suspended in the air. When light from a lamp, a car, or even the moon passes through this misty curtain, those droplets scatter the light in all directions. This scattering causes what scientists call forward diffraction, but to the sleepy eye, it simply looks like a glow, a soft blooming of light, as if the source is wrapped in gauze. You may notice this around streetlights at night. The light spills outward into a perfect halo, a glowing ring with no edges, just gradient and glow. Sometimes the halo is tinged with yellow or orange. Other times it's white, or even tinged with the blue-grey of twilight. These halos are more than beautiful. They are one of the ways we know fog is present, even in the dark. They appear around headlights too, especially in dense fog. The beam doesn't travel far. Instead, it diffuses, scattering into a cone of whiteness that seems to move with you. It doesn't pierce the fog, it becomes part of it. Then there is the moon. On foggy nights, the moon may still be visible, but not as a sharp crescent or clear circle. Instead, it becomes a pale disk, soft-edged, glowing through the mist. This is sometimes called a fog halo or a fog bow, and while it's less colourful than a rainbow, it holds its own kind of magic. You might see this same effect during sunrise, when the early light filters through morning fog and the world glows without shadows. Even shadows change. They become softer, less defined. They melt into the fog, just as sound does. Light behaves differently in mist. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And because fog brings the light closer, bending and scattering it, the world feels more intimate, as if the sky is sharing its glow only with you. Photographers often wait for fog to capture this glow. Writers describe it as ethereal, dreamlike. We simply breathe it in, because in fog, light becomes emotion. It tells you where you are, it tells you how close things are, or how far, and most of all, it slows you down. So, if you ever walk beneath a foggy street lamp and see its light haloed above you, stop for a moment. Look up. Let the glow wash over you. Let the fog and light meet, just there, above your head, and know that even in the softest weather, the world still shines. Fog doesn't always signal danger. Sometimes it signals comfort. Though it reduces visibility and blurs the edges of the world, fog can bring with it a quiet sense of safety, of enclosure, of being gently wrapped in the atmosphere's softest fabric. It's like a blanket laid over the earth, not to smother, but to soothe. In fog, the distant disappears, mountains vanish, roads shorten, the horizon moves closer, and in this smaller, quieter world, we feel more held. There is less to look at, less to anticipate, less to fear. Fog reduces the need for decisions. You go slower, you take your time. You move only within what you can see, and often that's enough. This sense of enclosure is part of what makes fog emotionally calming. It closes off the visual clutter, it mutes the noise, and it brings your attention to the present, the sound of your breath, the shape of your path, the simple act of being here. There is science behind this feeling. Fog reduces stimulus overload by filtering light, softening sound, and limiting what's visible. It quiets the nervous system. Your eyes no longer scan the distance. Your ears listen more carefully. Your body slows. Children sometimes feel cozy in fog, as if the world has become smaller and safer. Even animals seem to relax. Cattle grazing quietly in the mist. Birds delaying flight until visibility improves. To the hurried traveler, fog can feel inconvenient, but to the mindful wanderer, it offers permission to pause. It's also a visual cue for stillness. Even in cities, a foggy morning slows traffic, delays schedules, and brings a hush to normally busy streets. It's nature saying, there's no rush. Of course, visibility does matter. Meteorologists track fog carefully for transportation and public safety. But outside of the context of roads and runways, fog is not something to fear. It's not a storm. It doesn't break things or make noise. It doesn't chase you. It simply settles in and asks the world to be gentle for a while. There's also a symbolic side to fog. In literature and art, fog often represents mystery, but also protection. The world hidden, but not lost. The future unknown, but not unsafe. And for some, fog is a reminder that not everything must be seen clearly to be understood. So, if you ever step into a foggy landscape and feel the edges of the world pull inward, know that you are not being closed off. You are being held. You are being wrapped, not in cold, but in calm. The sky has come down, not to confuse you, but to comfort you. A natural blanket, woven from breath, laid gently across your day. Long before satellites and sensors, people watched the sky, and when they saw fog, they wrote it down, in handwritten journals, on ship logs, in the margins of farm records. Fog was noted with care, sometimes with reverence, always with attention. Tonight, let's turn the page back to the quiet voices of those who lived by the weather and saw fog not as a backdrop, but as a character in their daily story. Sailors, in particular, kept meticulous records. Aboard tall ships moving through unknown waters, fog meant everything. The logs would read, thick fog, visibility poor, wind calm, sea hidden, sometimes just one word, mist. They didn't have radar or sonar, only eyes and ears. And in fog, both became sharpened. Fog on the open sea could be unsettling, but sailors often described it with restraint, a natural part of the voyage, a reminder to slow, to listen. Pilots, too, once relied on handwritten weather reports, especially before the jet age. In early aviation logs, you'll find notes like dense fog at field, delay takeoff, or ground obscured, waiting for lift. These notes weren't dramatic, they were respectful. Fog wasn't an enemy, just part of the sky's mood that day. Farmers recorded fog in almanacs and diaries. Fog at sunrise, dew heavy, valley fog held till noon. Sometimes, fog signaled future weather patterns, or simply marked a memory, a foggy morning when the cows were slow, or the pumpkins gleamed with moisture. In every case, fog was noticed, not because it roared, but because it changed things, slowed things, softened the day. Today, weather is tracked by sensors and satellites. Data is instant. Graphs are live. But there's something deeply human in those older records, a kind of quiet reverence for the atmosphere. Those notes, faded and handwritten, remind us that weather was once observed not from above, but from within, from the deck of a ship, the cockpit of a biplane, the porch of a farmhouse. Fog was not abstract. It was lived, and those who wrote about it left behind more than measurements. They left impressions. Their words carry tone, persistent fog, thick as wool, lifted at noon, poetic in a way. Accidental meteorologists writing bedtime stories into the margins of time. So, if you ever find yourself reading an old weather log and see the word fog in looping script or careful block letters, pause. Think of the person who wrote it, where they stood, what they saw. You are connected to them through the air, through mist, through the timeless act of watching the world become soft. Fog has always been here, always noted, always felt. And tonight, as we finish our journey through its quiet forms, you are part of that long, slow observation. One more page in the log, not with numbers, but with stillness. In the world of aviation, fog is more than atmosphere. It's a challenge. It doesn't roar or rage, but it can bring entire airports to a pause. A sky that comes down to the runway and lingers. Tonight, we'll step softly into the world of fog and flight, where modern systems attempt to see through clouds that have kissed the earth. At an airport, visibility is everything. Pilots rely not just on the sky above, but on what they can see ahead, the runway, the approach lights, the landing zone. When fog forms, that view begins to vanish. Even light fog can blur the markings. In dense fog, the runway may disappear entirely, just a wall of grey ahead, with no clear beginning or end. This type of fog is especially common in early morning, when temperatures are low and the Earth has cooled overnight. Large, flat areas like runways encourage radiation fog, the kind that hugs the ground and thickens before dawn. To manage this, airports rely on precise tools, visibility sensors, runway lights, and instrument landing systems, or ILS. ILS helps pilots land even when they cannot see the ground clearly. It uses radio signals and beam alignments, a quiet symphony of technology, guiding planes home in the mist. But not all airports have the same level of equipment, and not all planes are cleared to land when visibility drops. That's why, on foggy mornings, you may see words like flight delayed due to low visibility, runway below minimums, the weather is calm, there's no thunder, no wind, but the fogs has gently closed the skies. From inside the terminal, it can feel like time slows. The windows turn silver, the tarmac disappears. You watch lights drift across the fog, trailing behind invisible planes. For the air traffic controllers, fog is a quiet stressor. It limits what they can see, what they can clear, what they can predict. But always, they move with caution, because fog, for all its softness, requires care. Pilots train for it, crews plan for it, and the systems in place exist to protect, not to rush. There are different visibility thresholds in aviation. For example, RVR, runway visual range, measures how far down the runway a pilot can see. If visibility is below that threshold, takeoffs and landings are postponed, no matter how eager the schedule. It's a decision rooted in stillness, in patience. And so, the fog holds the flight, not in punishment, but in quiet safety. Eventually, the sun will rise, the ground will warm, the fog will lift, and one by one, planes will move again. But while it lasts, fog at an airport is a reminder that even in this age of speed and altitude, the sky still holds sway. Sometimes it comes down to rest. So next time you're delayed on a foggy morning, look out the window. Notice the glow of the lights, the softness of the air. The world is still turning, just slowly, wrapped in cloud. Writers have always been drawn to fog, not just for how it looks, but for what it feels like. A curtain, a memory, a soft veil between moments. In literature and poetry, fog often becomes more than weather. It becomes symbol, a metaphor for things unseen, for transitions, for what lingers between knowing and forgetting. Let's drift gently through some of those images now. In Carl Sandburg's famous lines, "The fog comes on little cat feet," he captures not the science, but the movement, quiet, unhurried, a visitor slipping in unnoticed. Fog becomes a character, not a storm, not a threat, but a presence, a whisper on soft paws. In Virginia Woolf's prose, London fog wraps the streets in intimacy and isolation, the soft yellow fog, as she called it, blurring not just the buildings, but the space between people. Woolf used fog to paint a kind of dreamlike consciousness, where characters drift inward, thoughts bending like light through mist. In Japanese haiku, fog is often used to evoke impermanence, moments passing, seasons shifting, a single figure walking alone in the mist. In the morning mist, a deer calls out unseen, then silence again. The fog holds presence and absence. In Dickens, the fog is heavy and yellow and choking, a reflection of industrial London. But even then, it serves a purpose, not to terrify, but to set the stage, to place the reader in a world not fully clear, where discovery waits in every breath. Fog in poetry is rarely described in harsh terms. Even when it's dense, even when it confuses, it's treated with reverence, respect, because fog invites reflection. When the outside world is hidden, the inner world comes forward. Many writers describe fog as memory itself, fuzzy, partial, floating, things you almost remember, almost see, almost feel, and in that almost, beauty. Modern poets still turn to fog for softness, for ambiguity, for the delicate space between waking and sleeping. Even songwriters have borrowed its mood to describe longing or distance, or the slow unraveling of time. Because fog does not demand answers, it simply exists around you, within you. And so, literature has embraced it, as metaphor, as mood, as muse. So, if you've ever read a poem about mist and felt a twinge of sadness, or a sense of peace, or a memory rise like breath in cold air, that is the power of fog in words. It holds what we cannot quite explain. It lets us wander without needing to arrive. And tonight, as our story nears its final pages, fog becomes more than vapor. It becomes verse, and every line, a cloud on the page. When fog blankets the world, humans tend to slow down. We peer into the mist, searching for shape and motion, wondering what lies beyond our softened view. But in the animal kingdom, not everyone needs to see clearly to move gracefully. Tonight, we will walk softly through the ways animals navigate fog, with stillness, with instinct, and with senses far beyond sight. Take the deer, for example. In fog, a deer's vision is limited, just like ours. But its world does not vanish, it simply shifts. Deer rely on a highly developed sense of smell, able to detect scents carried in the damp, heavy air. They can pick up the presence of predators or humans long before they see them. In fog, that sense becomes even more important. Fog holds scent close to the ground. It moves slower than wind through open air. And in that stillness, a deer's ears twitch. Their hearing, already sensitive, is heightened. They listen for leaves rustling, for breath, for movement. To a deer, fog is not disorienting. It is simply quieter, and they adjust with grace. Now, lift your gaze to the sky, where owls drift in near silence. their wings shaped for soundless flight. Owls are nocturnal, so fog does not concern them much. Their eyes are adapted for low light, but even more remarkable are their ears. Set asymmetrically on their heads, an owl's ears allow them to detect not just the direction of a sound, but its vertical position. In fog, where light fails, sound guides them. A mouse under snow, a rustle in dry grass, a heartbeat in the undergrowth. Owls do not chase through the mist. They glide, they listen, they strike with precision, as if the fog was not there at all. On the forest floor, insects continue their quiet work. Ants, for instance, use chemical trails, not vision, to move from nest to food and back again. Even in dense fog, these pathways remain, unseen to us, but mapped in scent. Moths, too, navigate by smell. Drawn toward pheromones or flower nectar, they flutter through mist like small silver shadows. Some species even use air pressure changes to anticipate fog's arrival, adjusting their activity to suit the mood of the sky. Many animals do not resist the fog. They adapt. They pause when needed. They move with caution, not because they are afraid, but because they listen. In coastal regions, seals and sea lions rely on sound and memory. They swim through fog like water, navigating by the feel of currents, the sounds of surf, and the distant bark of their colony. For them, fog is not a curtain, but part of the seascape. We tend to think of fog as a hindrance, a hiding place, but to animals, it is simply another part of the environment. It can offer protection, concealment from predators, a soft cover for movement, and for some, like the fox, it is the perfect moment to hunt. Low visibility for prey, silent steps for the hunter. So the next time fog settles in, know that you are not alone in your quiet. There are deer watching from the trees, owls listening from the branches, and insects tracing invisible paths beneath your feet. Each one moving through the mist, not with confusion, but with ancient ease, because to them, fog is not a problem to solve. It is a moment to move through, slowly, softly, with grace. Not all fog is natural. Sometimes we make it on purpose, for mood, for mystery, for magic. Tonight, we drift behind the curtains of stage and screen, where fog is conjured, not by weather, but by machines. In the world of theatre and film, artificial fog has a special role. It does not hide things. It reveals emotion. A creeping mist across the stage sets the tone. A graveyard, a forest, a moment suspended in time. In movies, fog softens harsh lighting, adding depth and mystery. It turns alleyways into secrets, battlefields into memories, dream sequences into something otherworldly. The most common method uses fog, machines, devices that heat a special fluid, often a mixture of water and glycol, into vapor. When released into the air, this vapor cools rapidly, creating a thick cloud that behaves like natural fog. It clings to the ground, curls in corners, and dances in light. There are variations too. Haze machines produce finer particles that hang in the air, not to obscure, but to catch beams of light. In concerts and performances, haze adds drama, making spotlights visible as radiant columns. Dry ice fog, created by dropping solid carbon dioxide into warm water, produces a low-lying mist, perfect for that magical moment when a ghost glides across the floor, or a princess appears in a shimmer of light. On stage, fog helps tell the story without saying a word. It signals transitions, it amplifies silence, it slows the eye. Just like natural fog, it makes the world feel softer. In haunted scenes, it suggests unease. In romantic scenes, it evokes dream. In action scenes, it slows time, suspending the audience between inhale and exhale. Behind the camera, fog is used to mimic early mornings or moody evenings, even when scenes are shot midday. A forest scene filmed in California might need a London fog, and in just a few moments, it is there, coiling around tree trunks, trailing across a distant path. Filmmakers often pair fog with backlighting, where light shines through the mist toward the camera, creating halos, shadows, silhouettes. This technique can transform even the simplest moment, a figure walking down a hallway, into something unforgettable. Artificial fog must be carefully controlled. Too much, and it overwhelms. Too little, and the illusion fades. Ventilation, particle size, even humidity in the room all play a role. And yet, despite its synthetic nature, this fog feels real, because it behaves like natural mist. It moves unpredictably, it curls with footsteps, it catches breath, and most importantly, it tells us what kind of story we are in. A story paused, a story between worlds, a story wrapped in haze. So next time you watch a scene where fog lingers at ankle height, or trails across a moor in moonlight, know that it was carefully made, not to obscure, but to invite emotion, to help us feel time slowing, to help us listen more closely, to help us dream, because even artificial fog, in its stage-crafted softness, can still whisper. Let the world blur, let the story breathe, and rest in the mist. There is something different about a foggy day. The world seems slower, the light grows softer, and inside us, something shifts too. It is not just your imagination. Fog can quietly influence our mood, our rhythm, and even our sense of time. Let's wander gently through the psychology of mist and how the sky's hush can become our own. On a foggy morning, the sun hides. Its light does not vanish, but instead arrives diffused, spread thin across the air like cream in tea. Without strong shadows, the landscape flattens. Colours soften, edges blur. This kind of light, low contrast, low intensity, has a calming effect on the brain. We are not as stimulated. There is less visual input to sort, and in response, we may feel a natural desire to slow down. You might notice yourself walking more slowly, speaking more softly, breathing a little deeper. Foggy days can feel like nature's pause button, as though the atmosphere is asking us to rest. For some, fog brings a sense of comfort. The visual enclosure feels like a blanket, wrapping the world in soft quiet. The sounds are muffled, the distractions dimmed. We might feel more introspective, more inclined to stay in, to write, to think, to brew tea and sit by the window. Time on foggy days becomes fluid. Minutes stretch, hours blend. You look up and find the day has passed in a kind of slow motion. This is partly due to fog's effect on visibility. With the distant view hidden, our brains shift focus inward, toward nearby things, present sensations, interior thoughts. It is no surprise that many artists, writers, and musicians find inspiration in fog. Its mood invites reflection, and its stillness can feel like an emotional reset. Of course, not everyone experiences fog this way. Some people feel melancholy on foggy days, a sense of longing or loneliness, but even that can be gentle. Fog does not force sadness, it simply holds space for quiet feeling. In psychology, this state is often called weather-linked mood modulation. Our emotions are subtly shaped by the environment around us, and fog, more than most weather, carries emotional weight. It reminds us to pause, to be okay with not knowing what lies ahead, to sit with a moment before it moves on. In cultures around the world, fog is associated with transitions, between seasons, between moments, between thoughts. It marks the space where one thing ends and another begins, but not with sharpness, with softness. In meditation, fog is often used as imagery, breath becoming mist, thoughts drifting, like vapor, awareness rising and falling like gentle clouds. So, if you find yourself feeling different on a foggy day, a little more inward, a little more still, know that you are not alone. You are responding to something ancient, to the light, to the air, to the quiet. It is okay to rest, to drift, to let go of sharp edges, because sometimes the world needs to blur before it can focus again. And fog, gentle, quiet fog, gives us that permission. Fog may silence the world, but it also makes some sounds stand out. One of the most haunting, comforting, and iconic is the foghorn, a low, distant moan, a voice in the mist. Tonight, let's drift through the history and purpose of this sleepy sound, a beacon carried not by sight, but by sound waves through the damp, heavy air. In coastal places where fog is frequent, sailors long ago learned that vision could not be trusted. The horizon would vanish, the lighthouse beam would dim, the sea would blur into sky, and yet ships still moved. They needed something else, a guide that did not depend on light. That is where foghorns came in. The earliest fog signals were not horns at all. They were cannons, fired at intervals, or bells, rung slowly by hand. Then came steam-powered horns, then electric, and now automated systems. But all shared a single goal: to warn, to orient, to speak across a sea of silence. Foghorns emit long, low-frequency sounds, deep tones that travel farther in moist air than high ones. Because fog is made of water droplets, it scatters light easily, but it carries sound beautifully. The horn's tone is not just practical. It is designed to cut through stillness, to be felt, not just heard. If you have ever stood near a foghorn, you know the sound can vibrate through your chest. It is less a noise, more a presence. Each horn has a distinct pattern, a signature. 2 blasts, one long, one short, intervals of time between calls. These are not random. They are part of a code allowing sailors to identify not just the horn, but their location. It is sound as navigation, as safety, as reassurance. And to those ashore, foghorns become part of the landscape, a rhythm, a lullaby, a reminder that even when you cannot see the ocean, it is still there, and someone is guiding through it. In stories and songs, foghorns are often symbols of longing, of waiting, of journeys not yet complete. But they are also about presence, about showing up, about saying, "I am here, I see you, move carefully." Modern technology has reduced the need for foghorns. Radar, GPS, sonar, they do more now. Many foghorns have gone quiet, but in some places they still sound. From rocky headlands, from harbour walls, from islands wrapped in mist. And when they do, they feel timeless. A deep, steady tone reaching out through the fog, just as it always has. So, if you hear one, let it settle in you. It is not an alarm. It is an embrace, a guide, a voice in the mist saying, "Go gently, all is well. The way is there, even if you cannot yet see it." Tonight, let's follow something very small, a single droplet, born from vapor, floating softly through the morning air. In the vastness of the atmosphere, it is easy to overlook the tiniest parts. But every bit of fog begins with a single story, the quiet life of a droplet. Let's imagine its journey together. Our droplet begins as water vapor, invisible and free. A molecule drifting through moist air, warmed by the earth or ocean below. It moves lightly, never seen, only felt, part of the unseen breath of the planet. But then the temperature begins to fall. The air cools. Perhaps it is nightfall, or maybe the surface it hovers near is cold, grass before dawn, a lake at sunrise. The vapor feels this shift, and in the presence of a tiny nucleus, a speck of dust, a grain of salt, a microscopic particle, it begins to condense. That is when our droplet is born, tiny, weightless, alive in the way that water can be, changing, shifting, responding. As more droplets form, they gather together in the air, close enough to catch the light, but small enough to float. And that is fog, a cloud at the surface, a collection of lives, just like our droplet, hovering in the space between sky and earth. Our droplet does not fall. It is too light. Its size, typically just 10 to 15 microns across, means it is carried by the smallest eddies of air. It floats. It joins billions of others. Together, they form the soft veil we see at dawn. As the sun rises, the world begins to warm, slowly, gently, and the droplet starts to feel it. Its bonds loosen, its surface shimmers, and then, quietly, invisibly, it evaporates. It does not fall, it does not make a sound. It simply rejoins the air as vapor, becoming unseen once more. The life of a fog droplet is short, but it is meaningful. In its brief time, it changes the way the world looks. It softens light, mutes color, transforms landscape into dreamscape. Our droplet may be gone, but the story continues. The vapor may rise. It may become cloud. It may rain again one day, or snow, or freeze as frost. It may become part of a river, a tree, a breath, or it may condense again, another morning in another fog. Fog is a reminder that even the smallest things, even things we cannot see, have cycles, journeys, meaning. The droplet teaches us that change can be quiet, that presence does not require permanence, that beauty can exist even in the moment before vanishing. So next time fog drapes across the field or wraps the hills, pause. Know that within that mist are stories, tiny lives hovering and waiting, not to be noticed, but to be felt, to soften your view, to quiet your breath, to remind you that even the lightest things can carry weight. The fog will lift, the droplets will vanish, but for a little while they were here, and so were you. Fog may feel timeless, but like everything in nature, it responds to change. Tonight, we will drift into the larger picture to explore how fog is shifting across the globe as our climate slowly warms. Let's begin gently with what fog needs to form. At its core, fog is a balance between moisture in the air and cooling that allows condensation. When warm, humid air meets a cooler surface, like ground, water, or even night air, fog blooms. But in many regions, those cooling conditions are changing. Across the decades, scientists have noticed something. Some places that were once known for frequent fog are seeing less of it now. In coastal California, for example, especially along the Redwood Coast, historical data shows a decline in summertime fog frequency. Redwoods rely on that fog to stay moist through dry seasons. With fewer foggy mornings, these ancient forests may face new stress. Why does this happen? As global temperatures rise, both land and ocean surfaces warm. This warming reduces the contrast between warm air and cool surfaces, and that contrast is crucial for fog to form. Less cooling at night, less marine layer formation, fewer fog events. Even urbanization plays a role. Cities, with their concrete and asphalt, retain heat, creating what scientists call urban heat islands. This extra warmth can prevent the nighttime cooling that fog depends on. In some places, fog has not just decreased, its timing has shifted. Where once fog appeared regularly in early mornings, now it may arrive later or burn off faster under stronger sun. And yet, the story is not simple. In some regions, climate change might actually increase certain types of fog, like evaporation fog over warming lakes, or advection fog as shifting winds move moist air inland in new patterns. That is the complexity of climate and weather. For every trend, there are local exceptions. Microclimates matter. Scientists track fog through a mix of satellite imagery, ground-based observations, and historical weather logs. They look at visibility data, dew points, and surface temperatures. And while fog is not always the headline in climate discussions, its story matters, because fog is connected to ecosystems, to agriculture, to human health and safety, and to the mood and identity of entire landscapes. When fog disappears from a coastline or fades from a valley, the change is felt, not just by scientists, but by those who live there. It is in the quiet mornings that never quite return, in the vineyards that grow warmer, in the forests that dry. But even as the patterns shift, fog has not vanished. It remains a part of the atmospheric story, responsive, evolving, always shaped by its surroundings. And perhaps that is what makes it so moving. Fog teaches us about balance, and climate change reminds us how delicate that balance is. Still, on many mornings, the mist still drapes the hills, wraps the trees, and carries with it the breath of something ancient. The story of fog continues. But like all stories in nature, it is quietly being rewritten, 1 degree at a time, 1 season at a time, 1 morning at a time. In the stillness of fog, there is more happening than meets the eye. Beneath the quiet, fog is at work. Tonight, we drift into an often overlooked role of fog as a natural filter, a silent collector of the particles that float through our air. Let's begin softly with how fog forms. As we have explored, fog is made of countless tiny droplets, each suspended in the air. These droplets are more than moisture. They are like miniature magnets, attracting and gathering whatever floats near them. Some of what they catch is harmless, like dust, salt, or organic materials from trees. But some particles are not so kind. In urban areas, fog often gathers pollutants, microscopic bits of soot, exhaust, or industrial chemicals. It holds them in its breath, a hazy reminder of what we have released into the sky. These pollutants can dissolve into the droplets, changing their chemistry. That is why fog in cities may carry a slightly acrid scent, a blend of mist and molecules not meant to linger in lungs. But fog does not hold these particles forever. It is a temporary vessel, waiting for a change. Sometimes rain arrives, and with it comes a natural cleansing, as those fog droplets merge with raindrops and the sky washes itself clean. This process is called wet deposition. It is the atmosphere's way of removing things, 1 drop at a time. In forested regions and high mountain areas, fog can play a healing role. As moist air flows through trees, fog droplets settle on leaves and needles. They carry not just water, but nutrients like nitrogen or sulfur, which then wash down to the soil. In these places, fog feeds the forest, not only with moisture, but with trace elements that plants absorb. And yet, the same mechanism can carry toxins. In areas near factories, power plants, or highways, fog can gather heavy metals and acids. And when those droplets land on plants or soil, they may leave behind more harm than help. Scientists have studied fog chemistry for decades, collecting samples in quiet fields and along mountain ridges. They place delicate mesh collectors in the mist gathering droplets for analysis. What they find depends on the air. Clean environments yield clean fog. Polluted skies create fog that reflects what surrounds it. In this way, fog is like a mirror, not of our faces, but of our choices. It shows us what floats in our breath, what we burn, what we leave behind. But even in cities, fog still has beauty, stillness, softness. And in some places, efforts are underway to clean the air, so the fog that gathers it becomes gentler too. In cloud forests, fog is harvested not only for water, but for insight, a way to monitor changes in air quality, to see what is drifting in from far away. Because fog is always listening, always collecting, always holding a quiet story about the air we share. It does not blame, it does not warn, it simply gathers, waits, and eventually lets go. Just as it does with light, fog filters what is too much, softens what is harsh, and sometimes that includes the air itself. Not every ending is dramatic. Some are soft, some are quiet, some, like fog, simply fade. Tonight, as our journey through fog comes to a close, we will sit gently with the moment fog disappears, the slow unwinding of mist as the world brightens again. Fog never leaves all at once. It is not blown away in a rush. It does not crash or fall or shout. Instead, it thins, it rises, it vanishes. Let's follow it one last time. Imagine a foggy morning. The hills are hidden. The street lamps still glow in daylight. The world feels paused. And then, a touch of sun. Light pushes through like warm breath. The ground begins to heat. Air begins to stir. And slowly, the droplets of fog, those tiny suspended beads, evaporate. Some lift, joining the lowest clouds. Some scatter. Some become invisible once more, turning from mist back into vapor. This gentle vanishing is often called burning off, though nothing truly burns. It is just a phrase describing how sunlight unravels the fabric of fog, one thread at a time. Often, the process is beautiful. Patches of fog linger in low places, while higher ground emerges into view. Trees appear, roads stretch forward, mountains step back into frame. The world returns, slowly enough to feel like a memory waking up. In coastal regions, fog may retreat back to sea, pulled by breeze or changing pressure. In valleys, it may lift like a curtain. In forests, it may drift upward between trees, like breath rising from a sleeping world. And sometimes, it leaves behind dew, tiny drops clinging to spiderwebs, to petals, to windows. A parting gift. Other times, fog returns just as softly as it left. In the evening, as the air cools again, the mist may creep back in, quiet as a thought. In this way, fog teaches us about cycles, about presence and absence, about how something can be real, even when it is not seen. The end of fog is never a goodbye. It is a pause, a breath, a moment of clarity between veils. And so, as we watch it lift, as the sun warms rooftops and the sky turns blue again, we hold both wonder and gratitude. For the stillness it brought, for the softness it shared, for the chance to slow down and simply be. Fog reminds us that visibility is not always necessary for peace, that being wrapped in quiet can be just as comforting as seeing far ahead. And now, as it fades, we are still held by warmth, by light, by memory. Fog leaves without fanfare, and in doing so, it gives us space to return, to motion, to thought, to the rest of our day. But something in us stays slower, softer, more attuned to the air. Because once you have walked with the sky, once the clouds have come down to earth to keep you company, you never quite forget. Even as the last wisps fade and the world brightens, something lingers. A hush, a calm, a breath, and so we end, where fog begins again, not with a bang, but with a sigh. And as our gentle walk through the world of fog comes to a close, may the soft silence of mist, the drifting veils of cloud, and the hush of low skies stay with you tonight. We have wandered through quiet forests, across sleepy hills, and into valleys where fog lingers like breath. We have listened to the stillness and followed the science of the sky's slow descent to earth. Not in a rush, not in a storm, just drifting quietly beside us. I hope this journey brought you a moment of calm, a gentle pause where your thoughts could settle like dew, and the air felt just a little closer. Fog asks nothing of you. It simply surrounds. It softens the edges. And sometimes that is all we need. If these quiet explorations bring you peace, feel free to like or subscribe, only if it feels gentle to do so. You can rest now. Let the fog fall behind your thoughts. Snuggle in. Let the clouds cradle your mind. Good night, peaceful dreams, and calm skies to you.